Hi, everybody. Welcome to an episode of Dr. Cammy Goes Keto, where I'm here with Nicki, and we're doing our Motivation Monday, which is actually now on Thursdays because it works better for my schedule because I joined a community band where I play my clarinet. So thank you so much, Nicki, for being here, my sugar freedom buddy.
Yes, we got to do this together, girl.
Yeah, we're working on it together. And we are here today. We decided that we wanted to talk a little bit about bullies and bullying behavior. So Nicki came up with this wonderful topic, and she's going to kind of introduce us.
Yes. So, just to give you guys a little bit of background, last week my son, he got in trouble at school. And it
And
was
he's
because
9, right? He's
he's
9 years
9,
old.
he's a 3rd grader. So, and my son is the furthest thing from a bully. He's like a big softie like me and Cammy. But anyhow, he had said something to one of the kids in his class that's having some personal problems and behavioral problems. And as a result, all school year, he's been going through some things and he acts out in class. And because the teacher wants them to all behave together, she'll reprimand the whole entire class if that one student is really the cause of, a disruption or whatever. So last week they were all in line and a bunch of them had said stuff to this one student and said, "Stop being annoying." Well, Nolan was the last one to say something to him. And he said, if you weren't so annoying or something to that effect, people would like you. And he was just trying to give him advice. Well, of course, the teacher heard him last because the other kids had already gotten their comments in.
Uh-huh.
He was calling the line, if you can imagine it. He was the one that got stuck with the bag, so to speak. And he got in trouble because he got pulled off to the side and said, "That's bullying behavior. Don't do that." So he came home and he was all upset and crying. And I told him it's okay. And we talked through it and everything. But it got me down this rabbit hole of bullying because in our community, a lot of the times we bully ourselves. And it's really hard when there's those bullies that live in your head that tell you you're not good enough, you're not going to get all your work done, there's too much stress in your life, like family people are irritating you. And then the little sugar demon that's a bully in our head tells you, just eat sugar and you'll feel better for a little bit, or just have these carbs and you'll feel better for a little bit. And so that bully lives inside of our head and tries to convince us that he can make us feel better for a little bit. So then I got on here with Cammy and I was just like, we're friends now. And I was like, did you have bullies growing up? Because I certainly did. And then we went down this whole thing. So jump in, Cammy, and let me know, like, what do you think about the whole bullying thing? And did you have bullies growing up? And you had a little brothers and sisters, so maybe they were your bullies.
Yeah, I did. I came from a family of 7 kids, and I had one sister who was the one 2 years above me, who was the biggest bully to me. I mean, she would physically hit me and pull my hair out and leave bald spots. And one time I even bled a little bit because she pulled so much hair out at one time. And I never really got support from my parents for this because there were so many fires to put out, and it was kind of like fend for yourself. And so I didn't get the support that I needed for that. And so she was kind of a bully to me. And then, the other siblings weren't really so bad because we would just all bully each other, and it all came out at the end of the day and, the wash, and everybody was kind of okay. And,
Yeah.
like you said before we started taping, you have to sit down and have dinner with these people and live in the same house with these people and, tolerate these people. And so you tolerated the bullying. And growing up, I would say that one of my biggest bullies was my mom. And, it's interesting because I just wanted to say because I allowed her to be. Isn't that
Ooh, that's a good
interesting?
one.
But,
Yeah.
I really didn't allow it. It just happened. And like, I was the kid who came home and said, you know, I got a B on my test. And she said, why didn't you get an A? And I said, well, everybody else got B minus or C. It was this really hard test. I'll never forget it. So I was never like accepted for the way that I was. It was, always having to be better, always having to be the best, always, push, push, push. And so I have this voice in my head now that is my bully and that says push, 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 and you're never good enough, and you don't quite measure up, and yeah, you did great, but what about this and this and this? And so I really relate to having a bully in my head. And I have to say that sometimes I go through days where the bully is laying low. And, I have these days where I'm on my food plan and I'm eating my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I'm doing the deal as far as, my sugar, flour, and caffeine go. And the bully is laying low, but I always know that it's there.
Yeah.
Like the bully is just waiting for the next opportunity, for the next moment of weakness, for the next, to say something that I think I'll believe. And it's really ridiculous, the stuff that it says, but yet I'll pay attention to it. I'll give it time, that it really doesn't deserve.
Yeah. Yeah, almost like if we envision like a sugar dragon in the corner and it's just waiting for something for life to get lifey or stress to kick in. It's like, well, we can come back. We can be here, for you, trying to get us to go be pulled back into that old life of ours where it's like we know that doesn't work. We've done that before. But yet it wants to, say, well, I'm the easy button. Come on.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I'm what you're used to,
Yes.
I'm what's comfortable. I'm what's, always been there. I'm dependable. I'm always there to give you a hard time so that you can have a reason to go eat the sugar.
Yeah.
And as far as believing the voice, the other day I went to an OA meeting and it was a journaling and writing meeting, and we do these 4 questions that everybody from the group picks these 4 questions, and then when we meditate, we come back with 4 questions. It's really great. And then we journal for 15 minutes, and then we come back again and share what we journaled. And so one of the questions last week was, why is writing such an important tool? And I really understood and learned to appreciate that writing stuff down that goes on in my head is a really good way to realize how silly and ridiculous it is. Like I'll have a thought about something, and sometimes I'll be able to just say, my gosh, that was such a silly, ridiculous thought. Like, I'm going to go drive by and get this because I'm feeling this. And I'll just think, well, that's so silly. That doesn't even make sense. But sometimes I'll want to believe it. And so sometimes, like journaling it, writing it down, and then reading it out loud is a really good way to make yourself realize how ridiculous it is, the voices that go on in your head and this bullying that's going on. And to realize that you're not going to, that's a grown up way to deal with it, right? You don't have to listen to the bully. You don't have to act on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you were talking about how our culture is even a bully and it treats people who are overweight like me like differently because there's an assumption that if I am overweight that I'm lazy or unmotivated or undisciplined or any of that. And then also our world is very noisy and it's very consumer driven. They want me to be a consumer. And if you look at that word consume, that means that I'm just consuming. There's nothing coming out. And so when we're journaling, we're not consuming, we're pushing it out.
Mhm.
So we're getting it out onto the page. So I almost feel like it's cathartic. What is that word? Cathartic?
Yep.
Or relieving because instead of just taking in everything that the world is dumping on us, we're dumping into a journal and we can either burn it or we can just leave it in that journal or whatever. But we're getting some stuff out instead of just having it all sit being like a storage facility for all of the stress of the world.
Right. And the other thing you can do too is pick up the phone, right? And call
Yes.
somebody. Like
Yeah.
you and I now can call each other and say, or after you listen to this video, you can call us and you can say, my bully just told me blah, 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 and I just think this is ridiculous. Or I'm listening to it and I want to go do whatever and, talk me off my cliff. And, I've
Yeah.
had people more than one time talk me off my cliff. And yeah, so, you need to pull out your tools and start using your tools when the bully is trying to get the best of you.
Yeah, definitely. And then giving ourselves the same kindness. Because while I was talking to my son, I was thinking, why don't I do this to myself? And we teach, as coaches, we teach people kindness and self forgiveness is the first thing that we have to do because we're never going to heal if we keep criticizing and being mean to ourselves. Right.
Right, exactly. And like, for me, another idea would be to go to little Cammy and say, "Oh, little Cammy, I'm so sorry that you're, feeling this way, that you want to go do something that's going to harm yourself, what do you need? What do you need, sweetheart? Like Mike says, you ask yourself,
Yeah.
what do you need, sweetheart? What can I do for you? How can I help you? And going to comfort that little Cammy, because I think some of it does go back to way back when I didn't get the comfort and the consoling that I needed, like when my sister would do things to me and I would try to go and get backup from the parent and I wasn't going to, I didn't get it.
Yeah. They were busy and they didn't have time to give, hugs for 30 minutes or however long we needed to just be held and, loved, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, so that was the bully topic, and I thought it was a good one because I think we all have a bully, whether it's somebody that treated us badly when we were little or even, we've all dated those loser guys and sometimes what they've said to us is in there. And we've all had that mean boss that, maybe didn't think before they speak and talk to us as a bully. Like there's just so many voices out there that could still be programmed in our head, but we can reprogram that and say, I don't want that in there. I'm not gonna listen to that. I'm gonna tell little Nicki or little Cammy, you're doing all right, kid.
Yeah, yeah. I love this topic, and hopefully it's going to help you as a listener to think about the voice that you hear in your head or that you hear from other people.
Yeah,
And, when you hear it or when you see it, be able to take a stand for yourself or at least, process it in a way that it comes out healthier on the other end than eating food that's going to keep you in an unhealthy state.
yeah. Because really and truly, if we continue to eat the processed food, that's just bullying ourselves, right? Because then now we're just adding on to it and we're taking action on it. And we should be moving the other way, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, and we don't wanna give the food companies the power that,
yeah,
they have when they are creating this ultra processed food that's designed to keep us eating more and more and more and more of it.
yeah,
Sometimes I'm really upset about that. I was talking to Mike about that yesterday in our taping about how angry I get over that. That,
yeah.
I'm struggling as it is in life, and you're gonna figure out how to give me this food that's gonna make it that much harder to stop using it.
Yeah, and it would be one thing, Cammy, if they put it in items that I would expect, sugar and chemicals to be in, like the candies and the cookies and, the stuff that are labeled as treats. But they're so devious, they add it to everything, like soups and sauces and, like as a keto person, we might throw some tomato sauce on something. They put sugar and tomatoes to make up for the fact that the tomatoes that they're using in that can are not ripe and they're poor quality, so they taste crappy. So they put real sugar in it to make up for the sweetness that isn't in their
Mhm,
tomatoes. So
mhm.
it's not that it's in like the blatant items that we would expect sugar to be in, but it's in the stuff that it's not supposed to be in.
Well, and I guess we should be grateful that they have to list the ingredients, right? At
Right?
least they have to list the ingredients so you can go and look at the ingredients and learn what's actually in the food that you're eating.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
So be sure that you're doing that. Be sure that you're reading your ingredients on all the food that you're eating that's out there. And if it's in a can or a jar or something like that, and it's not whole like the way it looks when it comes out of the ground, chances are there's something in there that, you shouldn't be eating if you want a healthier body.
Yeah, yeah. And like, when we were in high school and we were learning how to drive and they said you had to be a defensive driver, to watch out for everyone else. We have to be defensive eaters. We have
Yeah.
to look at the labels. We have to make sure that people aren't slipping stuff in. We have to use our voice for the waiters and say, please grill my stuff in butter and please just steam the vegetables or, however you want to order your meal so it's as clean as possible, be a defensive eater.
Excellent. That's a great tip, Nikki.
Yeah. So,
All right, everybody. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our little video about bullying behavior and that you're going to tame the bully in you and, be kind and gentle and loving to yourself and to others. And, let's create less bullying behavior in the world.
yes, let's support each other and support ourselves and remember that we don't have to give in to the bully.
Anytime. All right. Okay, everybody. We'll see you next time. Hey, next week we're going to do our measurements and
Yes.
it'll be a month. And so we're going to see. Oh, and I did lose 5 pounds when I went and weighed in with Jeff. I don't know. Did I tell you that, Nikki?
You didn't tell me that. Good
Yeah.
job.
yeah, so thank you. So, although my percent body fat went up because my lean body mass went down because I think I was a little too I was so dehydrated. I hadn't been carrying my water cup around and drinking it constantly.
Yeah.
So, that's something that I'm doing. I'm generally really good with water, but water is so important to your body.
Yeah, and it's a
So
challenge when you're traveling because you have to go refill it and stuff, and if you're, like, making sure you're on time for planes and, Ubers and all that, it can be
right, and
yeah.
trying to time when you have to use the bathroom and all that
Yes.
stuff. Yeah, so but yeah, that was fun to get on that scale and see that. I was really quite surprised because I had been on vacation and I thought I was gonna be up 4 pounds, and instead
Yeah.
I was down 5 pounds, so that was like a 9-pound swing, and I'm like, "Alright, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yay." Alright, everybody, well, you take good care. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
Bye.